You know, the buried alive motif has been part of horror ever since the silent era. It's been on TV, movies, stage. But a lot of it is influenced by a certain story based on Edgar Allan Poe's The Premature Burial. Now, the film version of The Premature Burial, or Premature Burial, came out by Roger Corman in '62. Very underrated movie, but did very well at the box office. And the screenplay was co-written by the great Charles Beaumont and Ray Russell. Now, it made 1.4 million at the U.S. Canadian box office and 72,000 admissions in France. Now, this American horror film, again, starred Ray Milland, Hazel Court, Alan Napier, Heather Angel, and Richard Ney. The screenplay by Charles Beaumont and Russell is based on the 1844 short story of the same name. Now, this request is part of our trilogy of horror by our good friend, the channel John Walco. We've done something on the I Bury the Living. This is number 2 in the series, so John's suggestions are always great, so thank you, John. Now, this was directed by Corman for AIP. It was the third of a series of 8 Poe-themed pictures known informally as the Poe Cycle. In this one, in the Victorian era, British aristocrat Guy Carroll is consumed with the fear of being buried alive. Now, when we say buried alive, we really mean buried alive. It's an obsession for him. Poe's short story were usually about obsession, and this is another goal. Now, his fear becomes so overwhelming that it nearly prevents him from marrying his fiancée, Emily. He tells her that he, like his father, suffers from a cataleptic disease which can make one appear to be dead. Guy then takes Emily down to the family catacomb and claims that when he was a boy, he heard his father scream from his tomb of being interred, even though his sister Katie insists it was all in his mind. Despite all this, Emily tells Guy that she still wants to marry him. Now, after the wedding ceremony, Emily plays a melody to Molly Malone on the piano, which seems to send Guy in a state of abject misery, finally cause him to pass out. After regaining consciousness, Guy becomes even more morbid, obsessed with the idea of being buried alive. He soon builds an elaborate burial vault equipped with several safeguards in case of his premature burial, including a poisonous elixir to be used as a last resort. This latest project causes Emily and his colleague Miles to become concerned about his mental health. In an effort to change his mood, Guy goes for a walk in the moors with his wife and suddenly hears a gravedigger whistle the same Irish tune that was played after his wedding. The music causes him to pass out again, and he experiences a horrific dream where he finds himself trapped inside his burial vault. However, none of his safeguards work. When he finally wakes up for his dream next to his wife, he asks her about the whistling gravedigger, but she insists that she heard no one. Finally, Emily becomes unable to deal with Guy's behavior and tells him that either he rids himself of his obsession with death or she will leave him forever. The ultimatum seems to work. Now, in the TV version that we saw before, some of these scenes were truncated or were kind of mellowed a little bit because it's a lot of mental horror. He eventually destroys the burial vault he's constructed and slowly starts to become easier to deal with. As a final step of his treatment, Miles suggests that Guy open his father's tomb to prove that he was never buried alive. But when he does, it causes him to go another cataleptic state, and this time he's unable to wake. After examination by Emily's father, he is declared dead. Guy's family concludes he suffered a heart attack, and upon Emily's request, he is buried in a cemetery. It appears Guy's biggest fear is about to be realized when he's miraculously dug up by a pair of grave robbers just as he regains mobility. It's always good to have some hard-working grave robbers around. Now in a state of madness, Guy returns to his home to seek revenge on those he conspired for his demise. Now, Guy promptly kills Emily's father in the laboratory by electrocuting him. A very shocking scene, of course. While this is occurring, Emily tells Miles she has feelings for him, and that she made a mistake by marrying Guy. A servant comes to retrieve Miles after finding Emily's father's body. Guy goes to Emily's room, where the sight of him causes her to faint. Guy takes her to a graveyard, places her into a burial plot, and covers her with dirt. Miles approaches and begs for Guy to stop, and a fight ensues. Guy is stopped by Katie, who shoots him dead on the spot. Now, when Miles retrieves Emily from the grave, it's only to find that she has died. Katie shows Miles that Emily had the key to Guy's crypt. Katie reveals that once Emily discovered Guy's fear of being buried alive, she worked hard to have him meet his end. Emily hired grave robbers to torment him, only pretend not to hear or see them when Guy questioned himself. Emily also had a hidden cat in the walls in her home and had Guy's father's tomb desecrated, all to make Guy's fears grow. So this was kind of like an early kind of night gallery, the graveyard, but with more direct results. Katie eventually confesses to Guy's corpse that she knew what Emily was up to, but she did not have enough proof and needed to wait, only after waited too long. Katie and Miles exit the graveyard as the camera pans over a grave that says "Rest in peace." And for what it is, it's a fine movie. At 81 minutes, and like I said, a lot of people believe it's probably one of Ray Milland's best performance, even better than his Oscar-winning Best Actor performance. Heather Angel is very strong at Kate Carroll as Guy's sister. Hazel Court plays Emily as quite evil. Alan Napier, the character actor, Dr. Gideon Galt, and Dick Miller, of course, the very expansive Dick Miller, plays the mole. Now, at the time, Roger Corman had made 2 successful adaptations of Poe's works for AIP, starring Vincent Price. He decided to make his own Poe film with financing through Pathé, a company that did the print work for AIP and had backed a few of their productions as well. Corman wanted to use Price, but AIP had him under exclusive contract, so he cast instead the great Ray Milland. On the first day of shooting, James Nicholson and Sam Markoff of AIP turned up, announcing to Corman they were working together again, as they were able to convince Pathé to bring the movie back to AIP after threatening to pull out future lab work with them. Now, Corman actually employed Francis Ford Coppola, of all people, on Burial as an assistant director, and you see a little bit of aspect of the Godfather movie's style in this. Now, contemporary reviews for Premature Burial were less favorable than those for Corman's previous 2 Poe adaptations. Howard Thompson of the New York Times praised the handsomely tinted Gothic settings and compelling music, but found the film static, slack, and starchily written. Well, it is a B movie. The monthly film Bulletin wrote that there were some sequences well worth watching, notably Guy's hallucinatory vision of being buried alive, but found that the outlandish aura of the original story is never really caught, and Corman obtains most of the effects from rude shot cuts rather than intelligent exploitation of the situations and settings. Now, caveat video of all movie notes in a modern review, Milland's performance conveys the requisite amount of hand-wringing torment in the mode of The Lost Weekend, which he won a Best Oscar for. Even if he fails to capture the manic intensity that Price brought to the other Poe films that he played or starred in. Well, Ray Milland was never as good as Vincent Price. He was made for horror, but Ray had that everyman feel that he was very underrated as an actor. And, of course, the hand of Bogus Weems in the Night Gallery episode was sort of a cousin to this. Now, Corman's deft direction, employing a rich palette of colors and superb widescreen compositions, is on a par with the series' final installment. Now, according to Kinematograph Weekly, the film was considered a moneymaker at the British box office in 1962, and the film won a 1962 Golden Laurel Sleeper of the Year award, which I really don't know if that's good or bad, but I'll tell you what they won. So Edgar Allan Poe was being used quite often because he was in the public domain, even though most of the movies are associated with Roger Corman. Anyway, they just to recur with this, perhaps well known are the films directed by Corman of Poe's work, starring Vincent Price, such as House of Usher, the first in the series, that The Pit and the Pendulum, then The Premature Burial, The Haunted Palace, The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, but the Mask of the Red Death was there, and The Tomb of Ligeia closed the cycle out. But these type of movies really only got the huge success on TV, and John can back it up. It's a great TV watch because you know what's going to happen, but like I said, you don't know how it's going to end with all the cuts. You really can't take time off from this movie, so we return to Premature Burial after these messages, or The Premature Burial. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here with our John Walco-led horror film tributes, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Don't forget, just like John, we appreciate requests at all times and are highly considered, and you will be highly appreciated when done. When I get to them, you know I appreciate what you're doing. You're running your channel, and we're closing in at 2 million hits, over 4,100 subscribers, And we know this is a place for diversity in all aspects. We do sports, we do TV, we do movies, we do politics, we do nonfiction, fiction, we do real life, crime, all different categories. This is just like a local bar where the guys are having a couple of beers and said, "Oh, you remember that real Milland movie there? Yeah, that guy from Canada did a podcast on you today. Is it on the late night movie on Tubi tonight?" So have a good one. Bye.